Welcome to Creative Curriculum powered by the Creative Collective NYC. My name is Lily Doxy and I specialize in sponsorships. Today we're going to talk about how to build your sponsorship deck, and we'll cover 4 points: the overview, demographics, the opportunity, and call to action. Let's get started. First things first, let's talk about what sponsorship is. So sponsorship by definition is money that is given, usually by a company, to support a person, organization, or activity. I think what some people need to understand is sponsorship is actually an active progress. So if there's someone who's doing sponsorship, you need to do sponsorship. It's almost like a full-time job. It's something that you can't just kind of pitch and then let it go. It's an active job and it's an active thing. It's a form of marketing. So it takes a lot of time to actually do it. So if you know anyone who's been working in sponsorships, they can definitely tell you that sponsorship is not easy and it's not something that you can just easily pick up. But that's not to say that it can't be done. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's start with some of the components that I think are key to creating a deck. You can always add additional portions to the deck, but one of the things that I think about are these 4 things when I'm looking at sponsorship decks. I've done decks and reviewed decks for a lot of companies, and I've been on the other side of sponsorship, kind of as the brand person who was actually reviewing these sponsorship decks. And there were 4 things that I tend to look for when I was reviewing sponsorship decks, and I'm going to tell you what they are. So 1, I look for an overview. 2, demographics. 3, opportunity. And 4, a call to action. I'm going to walk through these 4 actual components, and then I'm going to actually go through a sample deck so I can show you and kind of link and label to where these make sense and why they're important and why they are usually looked for. So first, let's look at the overview. So I highlighted that the average attention span of a human is 8 seconds, and you have that amount of time to get someone interested enough to read. The overview should not be something that's super laborious. It shouldn't be like a whole background spiel on why you started the event or the project, what you're doing it for. It should be something that's short and concise, and it should get to the point quickly. A word of advice I would say is that if I were to read your sponsorship deck, if you sent me your overview and I was able to repeat back to, let's say, the CEO of a company exactly what your event does in a concise way, then I did my job. It's not really something that you should do that should be super long. It shouldn't be written out like a whole thesis and essay, because if we're being honest, a company is not going to sit there and read it. So if you have an overview that's easy to read, easy to understand, and someone can easily pick it up and put it down and say, okay, I just read this and I know exactly what they're doing, that's probably the best way to get your overview looked at. So when you're thinking about creating this overview, don't think about it making it super long, but make sure that it's impactful and it's concise and you get to the point of what you're actually trying to do. Next is the opportunity. So I think a lot of us, when we're doing sponsorships, we're always looking at the tiered approach. While that's okay, I think it makes more sense to go beyond that tiered approach. You want to do something that's a little bit more impactful. You want to do something that's a little more customized. You want to give them an idea of what you can offer, but don't box them into that. I highlighted that custom is the way to go, because custom is probably the best way that you can get a sponsor to sign on. Reason being is that when it's custom, they'll be able to really execute on their interests. As much as we want to think that brands want to be great partners with us, while they do, they're always wanting to get something out of it. So when you're creating something that they can customize themselves, or something that they can make themselves, or something that they can actually really create on their own, and something that they can make, that's a better way to approach it, as opposed to just giving them like a stock gold, silver, bronze, and hey, you get a logo, hey, you get this, hey, you get that. It's very entry level, and while it does work for some, and I've seen it work, custom is generally a good way to go, because one, you'll actually get them to talk on the phone if they're interested in the opportunity, and that way you can map out an exact sponsorship package or sponsorship proposal, highlighting exactly what they need and exactly what they want. These brands want a return on their investment, so if you're asking for, let's say, $20,000, they want to get what their $20,000 is worth to them. You can show them the value, you can show them what you have, but if it doesn't match up to what they want and it doesn't align with what they want, it doesn't really matter. So the way I say is try to customize it, give them an idea of what you want, but you can always go back and customize exactly what they want. So that way you're actually hitting the points that they need to achieve. Usually when you're hitting up these departments for money, they have a goal in mind, whether it be getting in front of your audience, whether it be actually being able to sell on site. There are different things for different companies. Some companies have the ability to sell on site and they want to do it. Some don't, and they just want to really just talk to the people that are there, because they might not necessarily have access to that type of audience otherwise. So there's always some kind of give and take when it comes to sponsorship. So you want to make sure that you're actually giving them what they want so that you can actually take the money that they're offering you. 3, demographics and data. So data tells the potential partner what they're actually walking into. When you give them this demographic data, this actually tells them who your audience is and what they do. This gives them insight onto what they can actually achieve and what kind of spending and buying power that they have. So audience and demographics and the demographic data, it's very wide range and expands a long way. There's a lot of things you can break down in an audience to tell a potential sponsor or potential partner what kind of money that these people could potentially spend. So let's say, for example, you're talking about, I don't know, Lexus. Lexus is obviously a luxury car. If you have a program or an event or a project that's targeting people who don't necessarily fit the tax bracket, or even the amount of income that they make doesn't fit the demographic of what a typical Lexus buyer is, that might not be the best audience for them. They might not want to participate because they're going to show up, pay X amount of money to be there, and not even get a sale out of it. So you want to make sure that you're giving the right audience demographic data, and you're actually like almost breaking down exactly what your audience is, who they are, what they do, what their spending habits are, where they live, if they're college educated. These are indicators of a buying audience and an audience persona. And a lot of companies have their own audience persona of who they're actually targeting. So if you can give that to them and they can actually see it, it'll give them more insight and see if that's something that they actually want to participate in. So next is the ask. So I like the ask to be done in person. Obviously, you can do the in-person can be via email or via like an online web call, however it works. But I would prefer to ask the person that you're reaching out to for sponsorship to talk it out over the phone. Here's why. It's because you might be selling yourself short if you ask for, let's say, $10,000 and they can give 50. I don't want you to lose out on potential sponsorship dollars if it's something that you can actually negotiate. So I would say you don't necessarily have to put an amount in the deck, but you can give an idea of what it might be in the deck. So if you're actually settling on an actual number, this should probably come after you actually pitch them verbally, or after you actually talk to them and made an agreement for it. Another way to do this is if maybe you had a phone call with them and you didn't send them the deck before, and the phone call you kind of pulled some information out, you created that custom page for them to kind of talk through exactly what they might want, what they might need, then I would say put it in there. But if you haven't pitched to them yet and you're sending this almost like a cold outreach, I would say you would want to ask them for the money in person. And by in person, I mean via email or via Messenger or via even a Zoom call. However you contact them, I think it should be a verbal conversation that you have. And based on what you can actually offer them, that's why you always want to customize for each sponsor. Some sponsors may get more value out of you than others. So if you're giving them a lot of value, let's say they're really interested in the audience that you bring in, and you're bringing in, let's say, 1,000 people. That 1,000 people can net out to be way more than someone who just wants to be able to sell on site. There's a lot of money in finding a niche audience and finding a niche for each sponsor. So I would say customize for each sponsor, give them kind of exactly what they want, because they're spending money to essentially advertise with you. Advertising dollars cost money. So if they have those advertising dollars, you want to make sure that you're actually giving them what they actually find to be beneficial for them when they're looking for advertising. There's a medium for them, and I think you should treat it as if you have the goods that they need. You just have to massage it and tailor it to what they need. And a call to action. So believe it or not, sometimes people leave this out. You want to tell them how to contact you. You have this great sponsorship deck, but you didn't even tell them how they could even contact you to get this done. So you want to make sure that you're giving a way that you can be contacted, and make it short. This doesn't have to be super long and detailed. Give them exactly what you want them to do. It could literally be a page that says like, interested in this opportunity, put the person's name, maybe it's your name, who's the sponsorship coordinator, email, phone, and be done with it. And even maybe put a website if you want. And if the website links and labels to the sponsorship opportunities, where it's maybe even a page where they can pay online if they want to, because hint, sometimes it's a lot easier for us to just click and pay than to have a whole full conversation if we already know what we want. So while I do encourage speaking to sponsors and giving them an opportunity to kind of address their needs and what they want, still make it easy for them to pay you. So if you have PayPal, Stripe, however you can get them to give you money, make it easy for them. Don't make it difficult. If it's like, I think a lot of corporations, if they are cutting a check, a lot of them cut the checks like net 30, net 60, net 90. A lot of the times you need your money net today. So you want to make sure that you're giving them an easy option to even pay, because sometimes they have the corporate card. They can easily pay that with the corporate card and it be done with. So don't make it difficult for them. Just make it super easy. Have your email out there, have your direct phone number out there, and have your website that links directly to the sponsorship opportunity, and even a link if they want to pay online, and they can easily do that from there. Make it easy for them. So now I'm going to go through a sample sponsorship deck, and I'm just going to kind of highlight points and places where I think it's really important, and just so that you can easily link and label the points that I spoke to before. So obviously you're going to have a cover page. So that's a non-negotiable, but here's where we first start. This is where we have the overview. In this case, they called it About Us. So here, as you can see, it's a short, concise paragraph, something short, simple, easy to read, done. It's not a big to do. I understand from here, it's a 5K run launched in 1997. That's what more do I need to know about it? It's a run. It's a nice design page. So another thing is, make sure the page does look pretty. These can be very simple, or they can be very detailed. But one thing I would just suggest to do is get nice quality pictures. If you have stock photos, make them really nice stock photos. Try to keep it consistent in the brand colors or whatever color scheme that you're working with. And just make it nice and pleasant on the eyes, because I'm just, from experience, if it's not easy for me to look at, if it's not easy on my eyes, I'm automatically going to delete it. So again, here we have that short, concise paragraph. It's easy to digest. I can easily pick it up and put it back down. And it's not deterring me from reading it. It's captivating. It's interesting. And I'd rather go forward. I did also point out that you can include your site on the pages. So if you have a site that has like maybe full information on the opportunity, definitely include that on the footer of all the pages of your sponsorship deck. Next, this is more of a visual of what the event actually is. So if you're looking at this big run for charity, it kind of highlights exactly what it is, and it gives it in bullet points. This person decided to do it in a diagram where it was just kind of like an oval, a half semicircle, sorry, and it actually talks about the different points of the actual event. This could have been done in bullets, but they took the extra step to make it a little bit more visually appealing, so that way someone's a little bit more interested, and it makes it easier on the eyes to read. And again, when you notice at the top, it doesn't have a super long description of anything. It's just like 2 sentences, and that's it. Next, about our audience. So numbers absolutely do matter. This deck is very detailed in the numbers. It gives the ages, it gives the percentages of who the audience is, their gender, their even if they've attended the event in the past. This even highlights the different sponsors that they had that potentially could have been sponsors. So there's a certain percentage who uses certain telecom user. So they have some people who are AT&T, TELUS, Rogers. There's even people who have the demographics on what kind of cars they drive, even who they bank with, how many children that they have, what their income looks like. These are the type of things you want to look for when you're talking about audience. It's not just where the name, their age is, their race, and that's it. You can go way beyond that. You can even go into where these people are located, because sometimes people are doing events that are nationwide and people might be flying into them. So if they're flying into the event, they could be coming from anywhere. They could be coming from anywhere in the United States. They can be coming from anywhere in the world. So if you have a breakdown of maybe where your top 3 people live, like maybe by state or even by country, that would be very helpful for them to see, because if they don't have a footprint in that country, it might be helpful for them to actually be there because they can get some kind of traction there. So giving as much detail as you can for your audience is super helpful. And I know sometimes people are like, okay, well, I have an audience, but I have no idea what these people do. How am I going to find that information? The easiest part is send a survey. You have to have an email list. If you don't have an email list already for your event, you're late, because you need to get an email list. Send out an email to your email list, just kind of asking them to do this survey. And you're not going to get everyone who's going to actually participate in the survey. I know they won't, but at least you'll get some idea of what your audience looks like. And if you give it in percentages, it doesn't look like you had only 20 people out of 100 respond. It'll just look like you had a percentage of people respond. So when you're using data, you can always work in percentages, so it doesn't make the numbers look like you really didn't talk to anyone. So social media, tell them what your digital landscape looks like. I know sometimes people are a little bit shy about putting their digital, just because they might not have as much of a reach when it comes to social. On the converse, there's some people who have a major social media presence and they want to highlight that first. I think you should highlight both. Not only tell me what your audience data looks like, but show me what your social media data looks like. So that's knowing how many followers you have on your social media platforms, and even your email list. How big is that? How many people actually hit your website? How much traffic are you getting on all of these? What's your engagement look like? You want to highlight these kind of things, because this is what these brands are going to look for. So let's say you post a picture on Instagram, for example. How much engagement do you get on that post? Will they be posted on your Instagram? They can kind of assess what kind of traffic that they can get to maybe their website or their Instagram, just based on what you do for your Instagram. So another thing I do want to highlight is, I think a lot of us tend to rest on having large Instagram followings, and maybe second to that might be Twitter. I want you to really think about your email list. Why? Because I know companies will pay a lot of money just for an email list. They will do an event and do the whole song and dance just to have access to your email list. And they will pay a lot of money just for emails. Getting emails is like getting someone's phone number in this day and age. So when they take those emails, if you allow them to have access to your email list, so let's say you do your event, right? And the people who buy tickets check off a box saying that you're okay with them, they're okay with you sharing emails with the sponsors. Let's say you provide them with the email list. That email list can go into that brand's CRM. So in that CRM tool, they'll be able to target them with their own emails, or even if they're a company that has a sales organization, that can go into their CRM tools and allow for them to load it up into something like a Salesforce, for example, and that automatically gives leads to their sales teams. So emails are very, very important. They can make a lot of money from the email just by sending it to the right person. So don't underestimate your email list, because email is always probably going to exist. Instagram can go away, Twitter can go away, but by far emails are probably going to be your go-to and your gold. So one thing you want to do is take advantage of the email list you have and grow that email list, because that could get you a lot of money. Next, so these are a couple things that you want to do. You want to kind of show a case study to kind of prove that you can actually deliver on what you say you do. And again, I know some first timers, if you're doing this event or this project for the very first time, you might not have this info, and that's okay. But if you are doing maybe an annual event, or you're doing this for the second time, or you've done this before, or you've done events similar to this before, add in your case studies. The reason being is because they want to see what other brands have gotten from this, what other brands have been able to sell from this. Maybe have people actually bought anything from them? Have people actually participated? Have people stopped by the booth? They want to know if there's actually success if they participate with you. While someone could have a great event and it could be great, there might not be any traction for that company at all. But providing these case studies gives them a little bit of a push to be like, okay, well, this company did so well, so I can probably do that too. If you give them some kind of insight onto what kind of results that you get, that gives you even more of a business case for them to want to participate and work with you. From even when you look at media partnerships, especially when you're doing conferences, there's a lot that goes into media. And if you can get someone to have that media presence and give a certain amount of views and just a lot of traction through there, that's something that you definitely want to take advantage of. And even if you're looking at a company that has product to sell, if you look at our audience's responsive slide, you'll see that they even highlighted that they got 23 sales directly from that event. Sometimes people do booths with actual sales and don't make anything. For someone to do 23 sales at one event for a day, that's really good. And if you can do that and you can show that in a deck that you can actually show the results that you've done, that's something that's winning. You need to highlight that, and you need to let them know that you'll deliver on the results and their money won't go to waste. There'll be a return on their investment. So next is where we want to talk about what you can actually give to them. So like I said before, I prefer people to try and be a little bit more custom when they are talking to their potential brand partners. You want to make sure that you're actually highlighting what they want. I pointed out, notice how the language is all about getting the sponsor's goals met. There are certain goals that they need to hit. Every company has a different goal. Every company has a different target. Every company does not have the same audience. And you want to make sure that you build something with them so that fits within the budget that they can spend, but also hits what they actually need to achieve with this partnership. You want to make sure that you're allowing them the space and kind of showing them the things that you can do. I like how in this deck that they kind of gave options and things that you could potentially do with this sponsorship, like having an on-site activation, employee engagement, having product samples, doing experiential marketing. So it's leaving it very open so that the partners don't feel like they're boxed in. A lot of times when partners do want to do a activation on site, they want to build out something grand, or they might not even have the funds to build out something grand, but they just want to be there. You want to give them the option to do something. Don't just stick with a logo placement. I know that's been like a thing for a lot of sponsorship that's going on. Like, oh, I can put your logo on something. Logos are cool, but that should be by default. If someone's giving you, let's say, $10,000, why wouldn't you put their logo there? That shouldn't be something that's highlighted. You should highlight something that can actually bring value to that brand. Having an opportunity to actually speak to the audience is something that a lot of brands take into account. If, let's say, I was a large company and I gave $50,000 and I had the opportunity to go on stage and maybe talk for 5 minutes about my brand, that's worth a lot of money if I'm getting in front of a huge audience. You want to be able to do things that people can actually take back and see as a return on investment. Don't make them feel like they have to pick a package to actually participate with you. Make it something that you can work together on and customize. Another reason why I say to do this is because it builds relationships. A lot of sponsorship comes from relationships. While you can always cold pitch, a lot of times people know someone who knows someone. And if you're cold pitching and you get someone to sponsor, treat them like a partner. When you treat them like a partner, that makes them feel like they're a part of the process and that they're just actually not just giving money and just saying, okay, cool, I did it and now I'm done. Once you build that partnership, that allows them to keep the door open for the next time you want to do something. If they got great results from working with you before, they enjoyed working with you before, they're going to want to do it again. Trust me, just from experience, I've sponsored an event 3 times back to back just because they built a relationship with me. The relationship was I didn't know them from the beginning, But when we worked together, they treated me like I was a partner. They definitely took advantage of the fact that we were there and kept checking on us the whole time. They even at the end of the event sent a recap deck that kind of gave us the numbers to give me the results. That's something that was really important to me, and I needed it, and they knew I needed it, and they provided it. So when you treat your sponsor like a partner and not just a cash cow or just someone who's giving you money, that's going to make all the difference on your future potential sponsorships. So now the last page. So this is how you can easily just create a quick get in touch with me page to get people to contact you. Obviously, it can be prettier than this. It can be even more pared down. It could be a white page that just says get in touch and has your name, your title, email, and phone number. These are make it easy for them to find you. Don't make it difficult. It's not like it shouldn't be hard for them to want to give you money. I always tell people, make it easy for someone to want to pay you. If someone wants to give you $50,000, why should they have to chase after you and find you? Another reason why I say to keep this in the sponsorship deck is because you might send it to one person and it might get forwarded or passed on to someone else, and you don't want your contact information to fall off in the email chain. So as long as you have it connected into the deck, there's no way that they can lose your contact information. And it's just easy to do. Thank you for joining Creative Curriculum on how to build your sponsorship deck. I hope you learned a lot and I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely feel free to stay connected with me. You can visit me on my website at www.thesponsorshipconcierge.com or visit me on Instagram at the Sponsorship Concierge or at Lily Doxy. Bye.